opinions expressed in this show belong to the person expressing them. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of Rancher or any other entity.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native, the show that shares news and interesting content related to Kubernetes, Cloud Native, and other nifty technology. My name is Adrian Goins, and I'm pumped to be here with you today. I have so many words that I can say at that spot that I have to actually wait for the teleprompter to keep scrolling. Yesterday, the word that I made up was squiggled. I talked about moving back to the United States and how the housing market in North Las Vegas is, well, it's just out of control. And I'm not excited about that, but that there's a foreclosure property that's down the street from where my parents live that might actually work out if it's available. And that my mom would be absolutely squiggled to have me living a few blocks away from her. Anyway, I'm not squiggled today. I don't know what I said. I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. Let's keep going. If you're watching live, consider following or subscribing to the channel. And if you're watching a replay, please also give the video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm shares it with other people. Join the free community site and the Discord server. Links to that are in the video description. And there's a link to Discord. Woohoo! Live chat happens in Discord. There's a bot that relays between YouTube and Twitch, so come hang out with us during the show, after the show. There's always something going on over there. Let's take a moment to say hello to the people that we have joining us today. Joining us are the people in the chat room. Hey, good morning, Tim, Bala, Wifebot, Nuno. Nuno, we got something coming up about you in a little bit. No, there's no sun today. It's like super gray and cloudy outside today. I guess what, you can see in my window. Oh yeah, it looks dark-ish out there. It's actually nice. It's not very... Steve Shigeru gets a point. Wow. Good morning, Steve. Frank Mack. The ground squirrel? What? Okay. Hello to all of you. Twiki, hello, Mac. I already said hello to you. Gerald B, nice. Thanks for joining us. Ian P, Peter Keach, still scrolling. Yes. R.I.P. Ellie. Ellie was our bot, not our bot, but one of the, if not the most popular Discord bot. The girl who made it, I don't know what her name is. She's like some 18-year-old girl that just started building it as a how to code project, ended up being super popular. It's just, it was cool. We used it for giveaways, for the levels, for all kinds of stuff. And there was something that happened where she ended up getting banned from Discord. Nobody knows why, including her. But they lost access to the bot. And so while it was running, they were like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, they said it's probably just going to die because that's what bots do, and we can't restart it. So they're rolling all of that code over to a new bot called Mio. We are all waiting for Mio to clear the Discord bot approval process. Hopefully that will happen. And if all goes well, they've assured us that all of your experience points and everything and levels and stuff like that will also carry over because they do have access to the database. So hopefully in a little bit, you'll see a bot appear called Mio and everything will continue. If not, so what? It's like Borderlands. We'll just, respec and start over. Okay. Since I already started on the news, also in today's news, we have something happening later today where our very own Nuno Do Carmo will be a guest on Brett Fisher's DevOps and Docker live show. So this is live in 5 hours. What time? So it's live at 3 p.m. my time, so that's 6 p.m. UTC, unless y'all are doing daylight savings, 1 p.m. Eastern. Uh-oh, somebody claiming. Wifebot claiming internet twitchy? No, I'm looking at the stats. Looks fine. I think it's just you. It's you, Wifebot. It's you. Everybody in the channel saying the stream is fine. Okay, good. Yeah, so Nuno's on this. Brett Fisher shows are always tons of fun. They go on forever and talk about all sorts of stuff, and people ask questions and things like that. So we're really proud to have Nuno on there talking about WSL2 and Docker and all of the stuff that we already know he is amazing at doing. So if you have the opportunity, please tune in for that. That's the only news I have for today, which means we can get started on The collector bots that you know and love, have gathered candidates for the show. Trufflebot has scored them from 1 to 5 coffees. Coffees. He will post them one at a time. It's coffee and cloud native, right? So it makes sense. He will post them one at a time in Discord, and anyone who's watching live can rate them. Your votes are used to train the machine learning model that curates content for the show. So come join us and chat. And like, I already posted the link, so everybody else is already reading the thing that I'm not talking about yet. But here we go. Today we have... Oh wow, that did seem a little bit gloopy. Whatever. Today we have a fair amount of stuff on networking. Networking is it. Oh man, I love networking. I love networking so much. I love networking. I love network security. I love the fact that, like, when I was first starting to learn about the internet, I used to do BBSing when I was a kid, so I got it. Like, you dial in and then everybody's like in a central place. Hub and spoke. Easy to understand. But this internet thing started happening back in the 90s, and I was like, wait a minute. I only understood dialing in. I was like, you mean I can just like plug my computer into a thing and like other things route my traffic to other things that are far away that are also connected? Why would anybody do that for free? Anyway, here we are, where most of it's not for free. But there's still a lot of free stuff out there. But I just love networking. When I had my MSP, we had physical infrastructure at Equinix, we had Juniper routers, I did BGP stuff and OSPF over VPNs and iBGP. And of course, all of that stuff is now moving into Kubernetes. Jason Rokeach has created a thing called Mesher that is a BGP route reflector container solution for Kubernetes. If you're not into networking, just hang out. Like, don't downvote this, because this is actually super cool. Of course, Juniper is doing all software-defined networking stuff because nobody has physical infrastructure, and why should you not be able to leverage network functionality in your cloud environments? Right? Okay. But regardless, this is a solution for BGP route reflectors. And you might be like, well, what the heck is a BGP route reflector? Very quickly, BGP, which my friend Dave Denny used to call the work of the gods. And when I worked for Dave, before early in my career, I wanted to do the work of the gods. And Dave was like, oh, hell no, you're not touching the BGP infrastructure, because if you do anything wrong, really bad things happen and they persist until the network lets you talk to it again. Basically, the whole thing with BGP is if you have internal BGP environments and you're trying to mesh them together, you can end up with a large number of links that aren't necessary. And then this, of course, has all this route propagation and updates and stuff like that, and it's noise. So route reflectors enable you to define, there's all these different strategies here, but let's look at like this one here. Can you see that? I'm gonna blow that up a little bit. So you have an environment, and then instead of these three in the leftmost cluster needing to update with each other, they can just send an update to the route reflector, and then that gets beamed back out to everybody else who's connected to it. And you can have tiers of this. So that route reflector sends something to RR1, that gets updated back to the others, and you can start to cluster iBGP environments based on all sorts of properties, host, network, whatever, and control egress and ingress based on routing. That's the basic premise of a route reflector. Well, Mesher, Mesher does this for Kubernetes. He's also doing it with RKE, which is pretty cool. Thank you very much, Jason. And the rest of the article talks through how to build this up, whether you're using a deployment, a daemon set, when you might want to use one or the other, services, the value of Kubernetes for this kind of thing, and then all sorts of other documentation, including demos of connecting two different countries, Mirkwood and Lothlorien, and how you can do route propagation and stuff between them. Awesome. And even if you don't, like, if you use Calico, you're using BGP. Even if you don't have all of these environments to like, you're like, I'll never need this, it's still really cool. And if you just want to learn a skill that's like the underlying awesomeness of the internet, go play with BGP. Okay, I've said enough about that, but there's going to be more. Not necessarily about BGP. Next, in the land of awesome. All right, I agree with Wifebot that there's like some wonk happening over here. We have two providers. Periodically, I have to shut the second one off because they're I don't know what they do with their network, but it's like, I'm connected at 4G, but they just like eat packets or something. Okay, Cilium released yesterday. This actually came from Manuel in a community, so thank you for that. Cilium released the network policy editor. We talked about policies a couple months ago when I was trying to come up with like different themes that we can do, and so I started deploying Cilium network policies in my Cilium environment, and I encountered the problem that everybody encounters when deploying network policy, which is you forget something, or you do something wrong, or something's not working, and you're like, like I'm looking at it, it looks correct, what am I doing wrong? Or nobody tells you that they can't authenticate to GitHub anymore because you forgot to make that one of the FQDNs. Anyway, all of that is now fixable with this. This is a policy designer, and I actually have it up and running over here. This is a policy designer for both Cilium network policies and Kubernetes network policies. And you have your object in the center here. You can't see my mouse cursor. It's a shame. And then somebody beeped at me. Okay. So you have your object in the center, and then you have ingress and egress. And you can configure ingress rules from outside the cluster, from the same namespace, or from anything else in the cluster, and then egress rules to the same objects. And as you're defining these things, it builds down here your Cilium network policy. So I was playing with this a little bit this morning, comparing it to the Cilium network policy that I built manually for one of the environments for my CodeEMD environment that I use. And well, yeah, it's pretty cool. So I started building, ingress from the gateway proxy in Glue system to port 3000, and then egress going out to the database, and I just kind of stopped there. It's a little counterintuitive. No, I'm not counterintuitive. It's not obvious what certain things are, but to make up for that, down here on the right-hand side, they have tutorials. So they've got a main tutorial, but then they've got all of these tutorials for, cross namespace traffic, egress to Kubernetes DNS, which, hello, newsflash, is important. And back in the article itself, if you scroll down, they have various scenario mistakes. So mistake 1, not using a namespace selector. And they show an example of why that doesn't work, and then they'll take you to a video that shows how to actually do that correctly. They have this for namespace selectors, for this mistake, there's no way that's DNS, which I love down here, where they're like, it's not DNS. There's no way it's DNS. And then, of course, it was DNS. I love troubleshooting things with people where I'm like, that's totally DNS. And they're like, no, it can't be. Yeah. Using traditional networking constructs that don't directly apply to Kubernetes. Misunderstanding how policy rules can combine. And I ran into this as well when building stuff out. The nice thing about the policy editor is you can go poke at it and understand, and it will make the right thing, so you're less likely to deploy stuff and have people be like, hello, I can't reach your website anymore. So that is from Cilium. Oh my god, amazing. Max says it's always DNS. It is always DNS. Or they're like, my Kubernetes nodes can't talk to each other. I'm like, do you have a firewall in place? No. Are you sure? Yes. Will you look? Oh my gosh, there's a firewall. Oh, that firewall. No, I thought you meant the other firewall. What? I did vote. Trufflebot. Some people voted it as 6. That's awesome. Oh, I see. I probably clicked on the 6. Thank you, everybody. I voted it a 5. Okay, next up, we've got this, which is a capture the flag event, I guess, but not around security. Now, this itself is actually happening on February 20th to the 21st, but registration for it opens today. So I don't know if they have a limited number of people who are going to be able to participate, but basically, so it says in the last CTF, we learned about Docker and how to containerize applications. Now that you understand how to deploy containers, the next natural step is to learn how to do that at scale, which can be easily done with an orchestrator. Anybody who doesn't understand the at scale joke, just ask in the chat, and somebody who's been here for a while will help you understand. So this will walk through how to deploy a simple application using 6 microservices in a Kubernetes cluster running on AWS. And because it's a capture the flag type event, there will probably be objectives and prizes and challenges. These tend to be very, very fun. So if you're interested, or if you know somebody who's getting into Kubernetes and wants, because gamification is the key to making boring things interesting, or making hard things fun. I'm not gonna, no, anyway. Yeah, so there. Jeez. Okay, I'm gonna drink some coffee now. This happened a week ago, and I didn't discover it until yesterday because I run the processing of all of the content, every few days now. So Docker, we love to smack Docker over the stuff that they've done with Docker Hub. This, though, is actually really nice. Even though some people disagree, some people think that this was like a way to save money. Anyway, they took Docker distribution, which I've never heard of before, but apparently that's the project behind Docker Hub and various other container registries, including Harbor, the toolset to pack, ship, store, and deliver content. Huh, okay. So it's an implementation of the OCI distribution specification, a rich set of libraries for interacting with those components, and documentation. Well, they gave it to the CNCF. Wow. Cool. They gave it to the CNCF because internet does look wonky. All right, I'm going to shut down that second interface because I see that things are taking forever to load. I don't know. Tell me in the chat, is the stream still okay? If the stream is still okay, then I'll leave it alone. Because outbound is more important than inbound. And if there's something hogging the stream, donkey wonky, waiting for somebody to tell me, all good. Nuno says all good. Okay, we're going to leave it alone then. We're going to leave it. So they donated this. And the reason that they did it is because when they made their changes to Docker Hub, as we all saw, everybody spun up their own registry. Many of those registries are derived from Docker distribution, but they forked it and they changed it and they ended up with this fractured environment. And that's not what Docker wanted. It's not what any of us want, because now that just sucks. If you've ever had a project that you fractured and went off and did your own thing with, then you know that it's really hard to come back from that land of the lost. So they donated it to the CNCF. It's currently in sandbox. They expect it to go to incubating fairly quickly, and this will enable, basically, Docker doesn't own it anymore. That's great. The CNCF owns it, and now people who maintain it can maintain it without concern that Docker is just going to take their stuff and go do something wonky with it. I think this is a good move. So looking forward to living in a place that has internet that doesn't suck. How many of you have a Wi-Fi network in your house? Right, that was a joke. Of course we have Wi-Fi in our house. How many of you are surprised when you're 6 feet from the access point and for some reason it doesn't work, but 100 feet from the access point on the other side and you've got full connectivity? iPerf is a solution that will allow you to test network speed between two hosts. Okay. Wi-Fi access point is one of the use cases that he gives. And specifically around that, he says within his home lab environment, I'm saying he, I don't actually know who wrote this. Okay. So within his home lab environment, he has a server that just runs the iPerf listener all of the time in daemon mode. And there are clients for Linux. There's also a client for iOS. Sorry, Android people. There might be something for Android, but I don't know. Maybe you can just root your phone and then do it over SSH. But from various locations, he can not only test connectivity between two hosts, but he can test connectivity from his phone as he's moving around doing network design or trying to identify, when a member of his household is like, oh, my internet's bad, that it could be Wi-Fi. I have a Ubiquiti access point literally 15 feet that way, and I have another one out in the field 100 meters away. And sometimes, for some reason, my Mac will connect to the one out in the field. I don't know why. So being able to test stuff is great. And I think that this, though it's not specifically around Kubernetes, this is like a no-brainer for just having a pod in your home lab cluster that just runs this and is listening. I also, I don't trust my super crappy Netgear fanless switches. I'm pretty sure that they do shenanigans. So also Proxmox. So even being able to test connectivity between virtual machines in my Proxmox environment to demonstrate that, between two physical hosts, where the VMs are located, perhaps there's a problem with the connectivity path or network saturation, because they're cheap switches, so I don't actually have metrics off of that. I can see a lot of use cases for iPerf. What's next? Oh. Quantum computing. I don't know if I believe in it. But somebody believes in it, in a quantum state. I both believe in it and I don't believe in it. There you go. Quantum superposition or something. Quantum computing, it's coming. And it's going to totally wreak havoc and rock the universe of all sorts of stuff. It's going to invalidate all encryption that has ever existed. It's amazing. But it's very new. And these guys have figured out a new kind of qubit that can be switched into two modes: a stable idle mode suited for storing information and a fast calculation mode for processing data. When I read articles like this, I feel dumb. Like I feel like I don't know anything, or like what things I do know just aren't important because, wow. But what it also reminds me of is that we are only aware of the things that we are aware of. And anything that's outside of our awareness, well, it doesn't exist. So as much as you can say, oh, I'm aware of all kinds of things, like this show, the content that I find, the things I hear that other people are doing remind me that we're all like in our own little bubble, and we all have to break out of that bubble to listen to and interact with and understand and enjoy and appreciate the things that other people are doing in their bubbles. But just reading something like this, like somewhere, somebody was sitting there and was like, okay, let's take a nanowire with a germanium core, wrap it in silicon. Now, this is only 20 nanometers in diameter. So then let's put it on some electrodes and then apply an electrical voltage that allows that to spin. Then we can alter that by microwave signals, which can force the qubit into either a slow mode or a fast mode. And so let's make quantum dots, and then let's have that germanium and silicon semiconductor charge result in a hole called a spin. Come on. Out of all of this, they're going to make a computer it's going to be amazing. So this does open the door for solving some problems in quantum computing where what do they call it? Decoherence. Sounds like a terrible thing. So this is a big step forward in bringing quantum computing into reality. We're almost out of time. I'm going to skip through this one really quick. This is an update to whiteboarding software. As we're all working remotely, being able to whiteboard stuff, ideas and things like that, scribbling things and pointing and stuff for collaboration during meetings. Obviously, if you're using Zoom, this exists. There's other stuff that works for Teams. But if you're doing Twitch live streams or anything like that, Justin has an update to whiteboarding software. His preferred choice is Whiteboarding Online. And also, if any of you know what that is, please tell me. I see that it's on a 3D printed base and it has no markings on the keys and it's at an elevated angle. I don't know, maybe left hand? Anyway, if you know what that is, let me know because it looks cool. The rest of the article is about whiteboard stuff. He reviews a whole bunch of them, pluses and minuses and things like that. There's one more that I want to get on the show. Yes, good. This is from another member of our community, a gentleman named Tomas Gertjai. Hopefully I said that correctly, Tomas. Tomas has been writing an ongoing series of articles about Kubernetes. And this is, I think, number 8. And in here, he's talking about role-based access control and the various things. Now, these are less tutorials and more thought pieces and explaining the concepts around it and how they connect to other things. The last article that I had of his on the show didn't actually make it on the show, but it went out as one of the Espresso Shot tweets. He's in the community. I'm glad that this one actually, I tried to rush through things to get this on the show today. And out of it, he talks about something that I do think is interesting, and then we got to jump to the tool of the day. Kubernetes employs AAA to protect cluster assets, which stands for Authentication, Authorization, and Admission Control. And I thought that was interesting because AAA, if you come from anything old school, Cisco, routing, networking, whatever, is actually authentication, authorization, and auditing. But in our Kubernetes world, auditing has been replaced by admission control, which is actually kind of, I think, moved into 3rd place, leaving auditing in the 4th place. And what I will have in the same set of links and tweets that come out around this particular show is an article on how to implement auditing in Kubernetes, because it's still important and it's not as difficult to put in place as you might think. And then there's also a link about simplifying role-based access control through RBAC impersonation coming out of the Kubernetes documentation. So those things tie back into this article and will give you a holistic view of role-based access control. So thank you, Tomas. Next time you have more of these, let me know. And now we got to get to the tool of the day. Tool of the day. Okay. That's all I got to say. Okay. No router. IP over standard IO. Unprivileged instant multi-cloud networking. That was the face I made and the noise I made when this showed up in the bot feed last night. This is interesting. It's not applicable in all situations, and he does say somewhere in there that if you're working in a production environment, you actually probably want to use VPNs. But this does some really cool stuff. I just want to jump to... Okay, so in his examples, hang on a second. In his examples, he's got like first example, using 2 SSH hosts. And that's the first thing I looked at, and I was like, all right, whatever. I can do this with like my, what do I've got? I got this thing from Hack5 that's like a USB thing that runs OpenWRT on it and does VPNing things for reverse shells with SSH. Like this is all usable. And I wasn't super thrilled. So I thought, well, what else do you have in the examples? And he has examples for connecting environments with Docker, Podman, Kubernetes, LXD, SSH, Azure Container Instances, and I want to try to find VPN-ish mode. So we talked about K3D on the show and how I'm on a Mac and I don't use K3D because I don't like that I have to port forward stuff or jump through all of these hoops to get the Mac Docker network connected to the main network on the Mac. I don't like it, so I just don't do it. Well, something like this is directly designed, and this example talks about doing it with Docker networks that you create, is directly designed to connect different things. Now, it's still kind of port forwardy. So it basically opens up a SOCKS proxy, you use that as an HTTP proxy, and then you can connect to stuff on the other side. And so even with this, I was like, it's an HTTP proxy. But down here in this aggregate VPCs, one of the things that this includes is it's DNS aware. So he sets up his SOCKS proxy, but then does DNS-based routing to endpoints. So he has the AWS bastion, he has the Azure bastion and the GCP bastion, and then if anything's going to star.compute.internal, send it out AWS. Azure, send it out over here. So now you incorporate DNS functionality, and I'm guessing if we jump out to examples and go to Kubernetes, you can probably... Well, it's not here, but I bet you can connect this to the core DNS namespaces for your services and start getting access to stuff. I haven't poked at this very much, but I think that I think it's possible for this to solve my Docker Mac complaint issue and then open the door for me being able to use K3D, as well as solving a whole bunch of other issues. Requires 0 privileges to do stuff. You just need to have like exec access into some container running somewhere. There you go. No router. And hopefully Shipwreck can give us some examples of this in the Tool of the Day channel after the show ends. And with that, we must exit the show, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. Links to everything that I talk about on the show go up in the free community site at community.cncn.io after the show ends. Come join us. Community members get early access to links, video replay, and other exclusive content. If you have something you would like me to consider for the show, post it in the community site or in the show suggestions channel on Discord. There's nothing there that I'm pointing at. Have a great day, everyone. Just pointing, doing the little tell me stuff dance. Have a great day, everyone. Keep learning. And I will see you in the next show. Stay caffeinative.